Is everybody ready? Good afternoon. Today my office would like to announce some new developments in the ongoing investigations. Today you will hear from two of our deputy chiefs and the original complainant in this investigation. But first, there are a few matters I would like to address. Under my leadership as your Chief of Police of the Baton Rouge Police Department, has been embracing transparency and accountability from day one. We've done so because I believe in those values, in those virtues. The people we serve need to know that we are working every day to be the police department our community deserves. My command staff and I understand the frustrations of the public when the public's trust is violated. It is unacceptable. And this is why we take this case and any case like this seriously. The overwhelming majority of officers who do their jobs every day deserve no less. The wonderful people of our city deserve no less. To be clear, we led the investigation that resulted in the arrest. We, the Baton Rouge Police Department, have worked and are still working to find anyone who is involved in the violation of the public's trust and the policies and procedures of the police department. Next, the men and women of the Baton Rouge Police Department are some of the best officers in any police department across this country. They work diligently every day to serve and protect the people of this city. And our officers work hard to earn your respect and the appreciation of their hard work and their commitment to public service. When any officer in any department violates the policy that the vast majority of us have committed our lives to uphold, they prove that they were never really one of us. And this is why your police department is so diligent in addressing any wrongdoing. Transparency and accountability are not bad words. In fact, they are both necessary on both sides of the police-community relationship so that trust can be achieved. Baton Rouge, don't let the actions of a few, of a couple of rogue individuals, force you to lose faith in the majority of our officers who want to get it right for you. We are striving for excellence in policing every single day. Currently, we have an active criminal and administrative investigations that are ongoing, as well as an audit. We made contact with our federal partners when we first began our investigation, and we are keeping them updated on all developments in this case. First, I'm going to ask Deputy Chief Neil Noel to come forward. He's leading the audit team, so he can give you a briefing on what that audit process looks like. Neil?
Thank you, Chief. I just wanted to give you an idea of what we were doing with the audit. As Chief stated, in March of 2021, an audit team of supervisors were assigned with the task of conducting a review of the Narcotics Division. That audit is currently ongoing, and I anticipate it to be ongoing for several more months at a minimum. The scope of the audit will cover from March of 2016 to March of 2021. What we're looking at and what that audit will include is a review of all policy and procedure and compliance with existing policies as it relates to narcotics evidence and all those applicable policies. It will look at the daily operations and practices related to the enforcement activities of the group. We will review evidence policies and procedures, investigators' funds and expenses, informant management, the use of overtime and overtime operations, a very close look at all arrest reports, search warrants, and body cameras used by those officers and 25% of the officers on that squad, as well as a look at how the division coordinated with and worked alongside our local, state, and federal partners, as well as with divisions within our own department. We will review best practices from around the country to see what an agency our size, how we should be conducting ourselves during these investigations, how this division should be conducted moving forward, and we will put those practices into place as soon as we conduct the audit, prepare a report, and give it to the chief for review. Myron?
Good afternoon, all. Deputy Chief Myron Daniels, and I'll speak on the actual criminal investigation portion of this press conference. Since the review of the Narcotics Department began, the Baton Rouge Police Department has launched 5 separate criminal investigations. The first launch was an internal complaint, or was from an internal complaint, and has resulted in 2 separate arrests. Those arrests were made on Mr. Jason Acree. The first one occurred February 26th of 2021. The charges were malfeasance in office and possession with intent to distribute marijuana. The second arrest in that case was made April 14th of 2021, and it was for obstruction of justice. Since then, the audit team found some irregularities during their review and reported it as well. An investigator was assigned to investigate that case, and as of today, an active arrest warrant was issued for the arrest of Mr. Acree again. The charges associated with that case are false statements in affidavit as perjury, filing or maintaining false public records, and the third, malfeasance in office. We are, at this point, we have notified Mr. Acree, and he will be turning himself in shortly. As I said, there were a total of 5 cases associated with the criminal investigation. The other 3 cases, I won't go into specifics because, as I mentioned before, it'll just out of abundance of caution, they are actively being investigated, and we do not want to harm or interfere with those investigators' cases at this time. And from here, I'll bring up Attorney Dietrich Moore, who was, as we stated before, one of the original complainants in this case. Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Myron. We are simply here to keep the fingers on the pulse of accountability and transparency. Our office, Mr. Ron Haley and myself, had the pleasure of working with Chief Paul from its inception. What many don't have an opportunity to know is that during its inception, Chief Paul allowed us to meet with himself and the top brass. This matter was immediately turned over to the FBI. Because of our history of taking some of the high-profile cases in the city, we've had the pleasure of being able to not only work with the staff just on this particular occasion, but the opportunity in this particular situation to go directly to the chief, and it was handled accordingly. We thank the chief because we believe today that Baton Rouge is a safer place. It's a safer place because of the heroic efforts of Officer Audwan, who came forth and allowed us to go to task with any sort of corruption that may have been present. We will continue to keep our fingers on the pulse. We thank you, Chief, for allowing us to continue to work with your office in this particular matter. We look forward to everything that is to come in the future. And again, I'd like to say thank you for allowing us to be a part of the process. Thank you.
We wanted to give you an update on what was going on because we knew today that we were going to make another arrest in this particular case. We understand the public's desire to know everything and know all the facts. What we're asking is to be patient with us as we continue our investigative efforts. We are not going to speak on the ongoing investigations. I think what Deputy Chief Daniel spoke on are those cases where we've actually already made arrests. Now, let me say this. We were just briefed by our investigators prior to coming out here to give you this briefing. Our final reports will meet community expectations. Talking to my staff, we've already identified areas of improvement, and I was very clear that in that final report, I want that report to be made available to the public. We're going to acknowledge mistakes, and we're going to talk about the growth and how we move forward in that particular division. I'll take any questions that you may have now. Chris
Nakamoto with WBRZ. When Jeremiah Hardwan sat down with us in an exclusive interview, he said at the time that he watched Jason Akery allegedly walk out of the evidence room with drugs, there were other officers in there that were also watching that happen. Have you guys identified those officers, and what is their status?
So let me say this, and I saw your interview, I read the complaint. Every area, every allegation that is mentioned in that letter, in that original complaint, is being addressed or has been addressed by our investigators. If we learn that any of our officers broke the law, they too will be held accountable, okay? The only arrest in that particular case, as you know, is Mr. Akery. And if there was anybody else, if any evidence led us to that, we would have held other officers accountable as well.
But that investigation is still ongoing. Right?
That is correct.
Chief, when you have more than 700 cases dismissed by the DA's office, just how do you regain that public trust in the process, in the department, and in that division?
Well, I think it's what we're doing now. 120, I believe the last count was around 120, 125 defendants were impacted by this. Those cases were either dropped or dismissed by the DA's office. In fact, I wanted to confirm those numbers. It's around 120 to 125 defendants. What I hope is that the public see that when we were made aware of it, we didn't run away from it. We addressed it. That is the point why we're here today, accountability, to show that we took those allegations seriously and we investigated it. And I hope that they see that we will not tolerate that type of behavior.
Mr. Hardwan had said that there was this unspoken or verbal quota system within the narcotics division. Throughout your investigation, have you guys been able to determine how that quota system worked to arrest people?
No, as you know, we have several administrative investigations. I know they're looking at that as part of the audit. That will be addressed in that final report. But right now, that is still being investigated as well as other procedures within the police department, and that will be part of that final report that we're talking about.
Can you go over the 5 criminal investigations, and were 3 of them against Jason Akery, or am I misunderstanding that?
No, you want to talk about those 5 again?
Mm-hmm. Again, I can openly talk about 2 of them because we are at the process of where we wouldn't interfere with the investigators' actions. The other 3, I will not go into specifics on as it relates to it, but there are 3 active investigations currently ongoing right now.
And they're active investigations into
No, I won't identify any officers at this time.
Okay, is one of them Jason Acree, or is he three of them?
I would not identify any officers at this time.
Okay, so all we know is there are 5.
There are 3 additional active investigations going on relative to things that have been discovered during this process. Yes, sir.
The 4 supervisors who were over narcotics at the time that were transferred to uniform patrol, are they under any sort of active investigation at this time, or are they just free to just move to uniform patrol and do their jobs?
I think the chief, as he spoke on the last question, that all allegations are being looked at this time, and there are numerous investigations, both internal or administrative and criminal, going on at the same time.
Yeah.
Chief, I know there were some reassignments in that narcotics division. How, if at all, has this hampered the work of the narcotics division, since there's been such a microscope on that division and so many changes?
Yeah, well, we immediately knew that we needed to make those changes immediately because of the allegations. That's why we put together an audit team of supervisors that are being headed by Neil Noel. So those operations were suspended immediately, and we put new personnel in there, supervision, who are actually helping our audit team and our investigators as well in the process. We're confident that those individuals who are handpicked to lead these investigative efforts are going to submit a report that will meet, like I said earlier, those community expectations. And that also includes some training pieces. We identified some potential training deficiencies, training that we want to make sure that all of those involved have as we move forward as a police agency.
So to piggyback off that, are other divisions taking up the slack now that most of the narcotics division is out of commission? Or like what's going on with drug arrests?
No, so we have a street crimes division that historically, there are a uniform division, and they work low-level narcotics activity. I get complaints from the community about specific areas, and that's forwarded to our street crimes division, and they follow up on those complaints and investigate it. So that's still being done.
In our talks with Argon, it sounds like when they would go out and they would just go randomly stop people, he said that they were stopping people without probable cause, literally just going after anyone. If they had anything, a small amount of marijuana, they were going to jail. Has there been any sort of instruction on the type of cases that officers are working? Are they told that, hey, we want to go after some of the bigger, heavy hitters in Baton Rouge, or what?
So, when my team and I first came in office and we began to look at where we're moving as an agency, we were quite clear on what our expectations are when it comes to the type of cases that should have been worked. We don't care about numbers, we care about quality. We believe that those investigative efforts should be focused on those groups, organizations, and individuals who are involved in violent crime and narcotics trafficking, and that they should focus on disrupting and dismantling those organizations, that it should not be on those individuals who are suffering from addiction. And we made clear early on that's what our expectations were, and I think you'll see that that focus will never be veered away from, again, as it relates to the policy and the goal and vision of our narcotics division.
Do you have any guesstimate on when Acree is going to turn himself in today?
I have no idea, sir. I have no idea.
We talked a little bit about the community piece. What message do you hope this sends to officers, both the ones who want to come forward and the ones who may be involved in wrongdoing?
Well, let me be clear. Look, we don't get this far without police officers cooperating. Let me be clear about that, okay? It was our detectives who went out there and investigated this and are actually helping us with our investigative efforts. What I hope the community sees is that we take these allegations serious. We expect all of our police officers to hold those values. And let me say this again. We have more than 800 employees at this department. Over 600 are police officers, and we're talking about a couple right now, okay? The majority, the vast majority of the men and women who come here and wear this uniform, they believe in those values. And the last thing a good cop wants is a bad cop next to him, because they make us all look bad, okay? So I believe that the men and women of this police department uphold those values of loyalty, duty, respect, honor, integrity, and personal courage. And we're going to continue supporting those while we continue to investigate those who no longer deserve to wear this badge. Okay? It's going to conclude this conference.